Most NFL fans know Randy Moss as a freak athlete, a man who could outrun entire defenses and snatch footballs out of thin air like he had magnets in his hands. But what if I told you that Moss's greatness wasn't just about speed, height, or natural talent? Behind every jaw-dropping highlight was a meticulous, almost obsessive preparation process that made him a nightmare for opponents. And behind that cool, confident persona was a man carrying deep personal loss, emotional battles, and an unshakable commitment to his craft. What you're about to hear isn't the Randy Moss story everyone knows. This is the side of Moss that terrified defensive coordinators, inspired generations of young players, and proved that greatness isn't just about raw ability, it's about discipline, pain, and relentless belief. When asked what it takes to earn a gold jacket and a spot in Canton, Moss's answer wasn't flashy. It wasn't about touchdowns or speed. It was one word: preparation. Being a student of the game, he said. If you're prepared, you're ready to rock and roll. If you're not, you're nervous as hell. Even when faced with future Hall of Famers, Moss wasn't intimidated. But because his preparation removed fear. If he had done the work, studied his opponent, and rehearsed his plays, there was no reason to panic. One of his favorite examples was beating what's called a double vice. Two defenders pressing him off the line on punts and third downs. Most players dreaded it, but Moss broke it down like a puzzle. I'd find the weaker of the two corners. That's who I'd bash first. He didn't waste energy attacking strength. He attacked weakness, turning defensive strategies into opportunities. That mindset, calm, calculated, and ruthless, was a glimpse into how Moss approached football. It wasn't just athleticism. It was chess. If you imagine Moss as a pure talent who could roll out of bed and dominate, think again. He studied film obsessively, long before iPads and digital cut-ups made it easy. Moss would load a laptop with hours of footage, breaking down every defensive back he'd face, every coverage he'd see. I'd have a cut-up of 3 or 4 DBs I was going against, Moss said. Every coverage, every angle. That's what I watched before a game. While other players might watch a highlight reel, Moss watched tendencies. Did a cornerback open his hips too early? Did a safety hesitate before rotating deep? Did one defender show frustration after a few hard routes? Moss wasn't guessing, he was hunting. And at the center of all this was his personal foundation: faith, family, and football. Those weren't just words, they were Moss's compass. He credits those 3 pillars for keeping him grounded, focused, and sharp. But for all the focus and fire, Moss carried pain too. In 2018, he reached the pinnacle of his career, inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Just months later, tragedy struck. His older brother, his mentor and inspiration, passed away from a heart condition. Moss was devastated. "I keep asking myself, am I my brother's keeper?" he admitted. The loss haunted him, especially because they hadn't talked much before his brother's passing. That pain changed Moss's perspective. When Deion Sanders, also known as Coach Prime, invited him to speak to his team, Moss didn't hesitate. "I'm here for my brother," Moss said. "I know what Coach stands for because I stand for it too." The visit wasn't just a motivational speech. It was Moss paying forward the lessons he'd learned through grief, success, and preparation. Before the NFL spotlight, before Moss became a cultural phenomenon, he was a young player at Florida State, ineligible to play in games. But instead of sulking, he dominated in the shadows. Moss was stuck on the scout team, practicing against a defense that was ranked number 1 in the country. To some, it might have felt like a punishment. To Moss, it was an opportunity to sharpen his skills. "I decided if I could make myself better every day, I'd make our defense better too," he said. Moss became notorious for torching the starters in practice, building his own legend before he even set foot in a real college game. That work ethic became a defining trait. Moss wasn't just a natural athlete, he was a grinder who turned every challenge into a stepping stone. Fast forward years later, and Moss's influence is everywhere. Players idolize him to the point of choosing jersey numbers in his honor. At Deion Sanders' program, a young receiver even asked to wear number 84 because of Randy Moss's legacy. That's when you realize Moss wasn't just a great player, he was an icon. He changed the game and became a symbol of excellence for kids who weren't even alive during his prime. His impact went beyond the field. It was cultural. One of the most surprising parts of Moss's visit with Deion Sanders was his praise for the program. Moss was blown away by the level of professionalism, the meals, the coaching staff, the preparation routines. "This is a professional setting," Moss told the team. He recognized that greatness isn't just built on talent, it's built on structure, discipline, and attention to detail. That's the kind of environment Moss thrived in, and he wanted young athletes to understand it's not just about showing up on game day. It's about everything you do before the lights turn on. Randy Moss is one of the most ever step on a football field. But his legacy wasn't built on talent alone. It was forged through relentless preparation, emotional resilience, and an unshakable belief in himself. Moss once said, "When they kick the ball, it's time to play football." Simple words, but behind them is a man who outworked, outstudied, and outthought his opponents. So here's the question. Was Moss's dominance the product of God-given ability, or was it his refusal to let that ability go to waste? And if you think you've heard all of Randy Moss's stories, what happened next would leave even NFL veterans speechless.